AMD has grown in Cyberjaya, and I think it's the largest employer in Cyberjaya with 3,500 to 4,000 people.
They have real traffic lights now. They don't have to.
So where are you guys from? And I said, oh, we're from Malaysia. And she goes, oh, Malaysia, I love Malaysia. What a beautiful country. And I'm like, oh my God, she knows where Malaysia is. I said, do you know where Malaysia is? Of course I know where Malaysia is. I said, where's Malaysia? And she goes, isn't it in Africa somewhere?
New Yorker.
Yeah,
New Yorker.
Matthew, I know that you have been here in Malaysia for such a long time. So what prompted you to come to Malaysia, and what keeps you motivated to stay here for such a long time?
Wow, that's a loaded question, and it's going to take some time to answer. So I originally came here for a vacation.
Okay.
And during the vacation, I loved the culture and the environment. So I decided to stay for a longer vacation. And eventually my vacation has ended up being 23 years in the country. What prompted me to stay in Malaysia? And I thought, this is a very interesting country. Malaysians are very welcoming, very easy to sort of live here. And I made the decision to pack up in Australia and move here alone 23 years ago.
So you are basically from Australia?
From Australia, yeah. I hail from the Gold Coast, which is 1 hour south of Brisbane, a seaside or a beach town. Obviously, Malaysia is my home. So what keeps me here? This is where my heart is. This is where my friends are.
Why is your heart here?
I came here alone and I met someone, and then I built a family in Malaysia. At the end of 2005, I was approached by MDEC, which is a government agency under Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. If I look at my career and where I wanted to be, that was the shortcut, to be traveling all around the world, talking to global leaders. And I'm a very passionate person about Malaysia. I actually started with MDEC on my birthday in 2006. So my first day was on the 1st of March 2006. And I was very excited. I drove into Cyberjaya, and there's only one set of traffic lights near MDEC's head office, but it was blinking orange. There was no cars, there was no people. There were only 2 places that you could buy food in Cyberjaya. I went there into Cyberjaya thinking I was really excited, but when I got there I was like, wow, this is going to be really challenging. How do you convince companies that firstly have never heard of Malaysia, they should set up business in Malaysia, like their shared services, their finance, their data center and stuff like that. First you have to educate them where Malaysia is on the map.
Hey, pick out your map and go, okay, you know where Thailand is? Yes, okay. Just
Yes.
south of it.
Yeah, you know where Singapore is? Yeah, no, we're Singapore. You know where Thailand? Okay, we're in between. The first challenge was about educating where Malaysia is on the map. And then once you educate them on that, then trying to sell Malaysia by saying that we have a business-friendly environment, we have a very supportive government. Financially wise, it was seen as one of the lower cost locations for setting up business as well.
He shared me a story about Davendra Kumar, the head of AMD, and how did you connect him? It's an interesting story.
Many interesting stories, but you asked about AMD in particular. So Advanced Micro Device, of course, is a Fortune 100 company. My selling is via relationship. So I sourced out the head of these business services or financial services in Penang. And then I contacted her and said, I'm going to come up to Penang and I'll take you out for dinner. And we went out for dinner, and then we had this chat. She's very passionate about Malaysia as well. And at that time, she was running a finance department for AMD. And we spoke about setting up AMD, having a global hub here in Malaysia. Everything has to start with a relationship.
Yes.
When I was speaking with Bun Sri, she mentioned that her direct supervisor is actually from Penang, but he's lived in Sunnyvale, California all of his life. But he's
Originally from Penang.
Malaysian at heart, right? And she said, well, let's pitch this to Davinder Kumar. And I jumped on a plane, went over to Sunnyvale, met with Davinder, had a coffee and lunch, and said, do you think this is something we can pursue? And he said, yeah. He said, Of course, I'm Malaysian, and I think Malaysia has a lot of good things going for it. I was there to nurture the project for maybe 1 year or 1.5 years to get through for them to apply for MSc status and approve the project internally with AMD. And when I look back, I bought 47 companies. And when I say 47 companies, that means that 47 companies applied for MSc status and were awarded MSc status over the 4.5 years that I was working with MDEC.
Malaysia does have a great infrastructure in Asia.
Yes. Amazing.
When you look across, at least for my travels, that's one of the defining reasons I'm here, is because the infrastructure is solid for a lot of the reasons that you're here.
Yep.
And for me, one of them was the infrastructure element.
Yeah.
Sidewalks are a different story. but other infrastructure is very good. Yeah.
Another really interesting story is the country director of EPS contacted me. EPS, the acronym was Employment Pass Singapore. It was looking
Employment Pass Singapore.
Okay. EPS. And it was set up by a very charismatic founder, Kevin. In Malaysia, it was around 600 contract staff on EPS payroll, made up of both local and foreign knowledge workers. We work with very well-known companies, global companies and companies in Malaysia. And that's something which is growing right now. And there's two main reasons for this, the contract staffing business growing, is there's a lot of investment which is targeted at Malaysia now.
Right.
And when companies first come here to set up their business, they don't have a company set up, they don't have all of their regulatory
HR
stuff,
set up,
HR.
they don't have,
Yeah, so they can come to us and we'll say, okay, for the first 6 months or 1 year, you can put them on our payroll and we'll just send you an invoice at the end of the month. So what it does is it fast tracks investment. So the other passion project was in 2016. I was talking with some friends at the gym at Mandarin Oriental, and I said, we should go running on the weekend. There's a KL car-free morning on Sunday mornings. So I created a group on Facebook called KLCC Runners Group. Okay. And I posted and I said, look, anyone that wants to come running, let's meet outside Mandarin Oriental and we'll all go running together. And then a few people sent messages, but my friends are not runners. So anyway, I turned up outside Mandarin Oriental and I was really excited to welcome anyone else that wanted to go running. And then one guy turned up and he's going, is this KLCC Runners? And I said, yeah. And he said, okay, we're going for a run. I said, yeah. He said, how many people are going? I said, I think it's just
you and I.
You and I. So that was the beginning of KLCC Runners Group. Then I got a bit passionate and a bit excited. And so over the next 2 weeks, I started promoting KLCC Runners Group through Facebook. Before the event, I was getting all these people registering on a Facebook page that I set up. And suddenly there was 300 people who had registered. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what do I do? And so I spoke to my friend at Mandarin Oriental. They gave me 300 bananas.
Oh, wow.
I spoke to another friend who had a mineral water company. He gave me 400 bottles of water.
Nice.
Then I got up some banners made up for the road, and that became the first KLCC Runners Group community gathering, the first run. And actually there was
How long was it?
it's 7 kilometers.
7K. Okay.
But it was ended up being 420 people turned up. So anyway, fast forwarding, so over the next couple of years, I pretty much spent my life building the running community.
Fantastic.
So I grew it from 0 to 32,000 within about 2 years.
Fantastic.
32,000 people joined the running community. I work with over 100 corporate sponsors. You name it, I can share that with you. They were really supportive.
How did you get them?
Hard work.
And relationships.
Yeah, and relationships.
Who inspires you?
I think that my life growing up was all about survival. My mother instilled a survival instinct in us. I guess even now, I need to believe in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know,
It helps.
I don't work for the sake of getting a salary. I think on a personal level, I have a lot of passion projects that I get involved with in Malaysia. So number one is I'm on the board of Malaysia Australia Business Council. Wow. So Malaysia Australia Business Council is about 39 years since it was formed. I've been on the executive committee now for 14 years and the vice chairman for, I think, coming up 6 years as the vice chairman. I'm very passionate about what we're doing,
What you're doing,
and what we stand for. And KLCC Runners Group is the same. It's very different aspects, right? One is building community.
Yes.
The other one is about building business connectivity, bilateral trade between Australia and Malaysia. And then my day job, which is working with EPS, is all about, supporting companies find talent and also recruit.
The common thread is it's all relationships.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's relationships. I was sharing with my daughter when she was going to the university, I said, I don't care what you study.
Yeah.
I care about who you meet and build relationships with people that you meet. Because I think what I see now happening a lot of times with people who are coming out of universities, they don't have these relationships. And so it makes it very difficult for them to find themselves employed. So a couple of things that I try to stress is, one, relationships, and two, learn how to speak. Learn how to present yourself or your idea. Your idea means nothing if you cannot present it.
So going back to when I first joined MDEC, there's some really interesting stories which I love telling. So my first trip to the US was 2 weeks after I joined MDEC, and they said, jump on a plane, we'll go and set up some meetings. Our first meeting in New York was with Forbes. And it was really interesting. We were traveling on the subway, and during the day, people were asking us, oh, where are you from? Because I was with Zulfikar, who was working in the same team. So both of us would be there, and people were asking, oh, where are you from? I think we've spoken to maybe 10 different groups of people that nobody had even heard of Malaysia. And then we're going back on the subway, and there's this lady, three ladies chatting on the subway. And then she looks at me and she goes, so where are you guys from? And we said, oh, we're from Malaysia. And she goes, oh, Malaysia, I love Malaysia. What a beautiful country. And I'm like, oh my God, she knows where Malaysia is. And then I said, do you know where Malaysia? Of course I know where Malaysia is. I said, where's Malaysia? And she goes, isn't it in Africa somewhere? Actually, the first meeting I had in New York in 2006, the CEO of Forbes.com, which is a guy called Mike Smith, which is a lovely guy, and I still keep in touch with him today. And when I met with him, I was 2 weeks into the job, so I didn't know a lot. So it was more just about generalizations and chatting about what a great country Malaysia is and everything.
Did you mention the food?
Food always is up there, right? We're a melting pot of cultures and food.
Right.
So when I met Mike, it was a really interesting guy. And so we're just having a chat. And he said, Matthew, you're not going to believe who was in your chair last week. And I said, who? And he said, Buzz Aldrin was here. And I said, oh my God. He said, yeah, Buzz Aldrin, the first astronaut.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, that must have been incredible. He said, the funniest thing happened. He said, because I'm the CEO, so that my team brought him in to meet me, and Buzz Aldrin introduced himself as Buzz Aldrin, and then Mike Smith said, I'm Mike Smith. And Buzz Aldrin held onto his hand. And he looks at Mike Smith in the eye and he goes, did you know you're the fifth Mike Smith I know? These stories that stick with you for a lifetime.
Right.
And again, I can go back to Mike Smith. Now he's the chief digital officer at Hearst Publishing, which is the largest publishing company in the world. But because you've got these bonds, right, these stories, I can go back to him 17, 18 years later.
And tell the story.
He still remembers who I am. Yeah. And we talk about fondly. At the beginning of last year, I made a decision that I wanted to create content. I post every day on LinkedIn, and every now and again I'll get a viral post. So my biggest...
How can we find you on LinkedIn?
I've got a very unique name, Matthew Barsing. Yeah. So there's only one of me in the world. So every day you'll see it, 10 o'clock in the morning, my post will go live. Everybody's welcome to have an opinion, and sometimes it'll be negative and other people will come in to say that's not correct or whatever it is. But I don't get too much involved in it because otherwise it'll become a distraction from what I'm doing.
Right. The majority of people's thought process is a negative thought process, and a lot of it is conditioning. A lot of the conditioning starts as a kid. We hear the word no from inception to probably 9, 10, 11, 12, more than any other word. So that connotation of no is a negative connotation, right? So most of us are programmed, consciously or subconsciously, in this negative thought process. So it's very easy to get sucked into, if someone's making a post, regardless of the post, people will find the negativity of that post. Or going back to our relationship, why should I have a relationship with this person? What's in it for me? So there's that concept of there's got to be something in it for me, as opposed to this is an interesting person. They've got some great things to exchange, and what can I take away from it, as opposed to what's in it for me, which is a whole different mindset. So how do we change that mindset from being programmed, essentially, of have this negative to this element of positivity? And a couple of things that I've read have been pretty interesting. It's not so much positive thinking, but it's less negative thinking.
Yep.
Yes.
And not the art of thinking everything is positive, because everything is not positive. Let's be real.
Yes.
But everything is not negative.
Yeah, that's right.
And how do we change that mindset? Let's not look at this from a negative standpoint. It is really about the mindset, right? And that mindset is not so much being positive, but let's be less negative.
Yep.
The challenge with being positive is there's this inception that there's some type of things that are going to be perfect. And there's nothing that's perfect. And so I think that the real challenge for most of us is to be less negative in our thinking.
Okay.
Doesn't necessarily mean you have to be positive about it, but just less negative in it.
Like he starts his day with running, so it's a positive vibes.
Yeah.
So he becomes positive for the entire day.
Well, I think part of it is he starts his day with reading.
Yes.
And he's looking for the positive elements in the day that he can write about. And that sets the tone for his day. That's my thought process.
Yes.
That sets the tone for your day. The running is the thing that you do to get your body in tune. And we all want these little, I call them micro wins. You know?
Yeah.
I just want to win this today. Today I want to win at this 5 kilometers.
Yeah.
And that win is me getting up, putting on my shoes,
Yep.
going out and doing it, right?
Yep.
And then coming back and say, okay, hey, I won that. Or you waking up at 5 in the morning and you're going through your process, gaining material for your writing. Okay, I had my article written. I got it set to post. That's a win for me today.
Yep.
Now let me go out and do my running. That's a win. And then so now when I go into the business setting, I've already won.
Yeah.
In my day, I've already won.
Yeah,
so
you're
now,
very positive, right?
exactly, yeah. Or you're certainly not thinking negatively,
No.
like, oh, I didn't run this morning. I didn't write that article this morning. So how is this meeting going to go?
Yep.
You're already a winner in my book. You've already won two of today's events. So now I'm looking at people and I'm trying to develop the relationships with people, but I'm doing it from the mindset of, look, I've won. Maybe this person's won too. What have you won in today? And that's where the relationships begin, right? Because then it's all about what is the positiveness, we call it positiveness, of the day or the existence, and not so much focusing on the negativity. But I think one of the disservices of social media is it allows people to say things that they would never say in your face.
No.
But they're very comfortable with saying it, hiding behind some avatar.
Yeah, you're right. When I first set up KLCC Runners Group, there was some negative comments out there on social media about what I was doing. Every so often, I'll get somebody commenting negatively. But very quickly, I'll get other people running to my support.
That's the value of the community.
Yeah. So whether it becomes a professional or social community, that's the power of the communities. I'm too old to worry about all this crap anymore. You know, I turned 54 on the 1st of March. When you're in your 50s, you've done everything.
I was going to say you have a more broader perspective on what's important.
Absolutely.
Because certainly at 30, we think everything's important.
Yeah.
And I think at 40, there's that season where it's like, okay, family usually is a lot more important. Stability, as you pointed out, becomes a lot more important. And then at 50, you're like, geez, half the stuff I worry about doesn't happen.
No.
And let me trust you. At 60, you're like, 90% of the stuff I worry about doesn't happen.
Doesn't matter, right?
And then when you're 70, it's like, none of it matters.
Zero, right?
Well, just enjoy life,
Yeah.
And all that time that I spent in my 30s and 40s worrying about all of this stuff, a lot of the comments that people would make, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Doesn't impact your life at all.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. When I came here, I married a lovely lady who became my wife, who's local Malay Malaysian. I had a family. I have a daughter and a son to my ex-wife. I embraced the culture. I embraced the religion. Felt like I wasn't an outsider. I really felt like I was.
You speak Bahasa Malay?
Boleh cakap sikit lah. Sedikit sahaja. So
Okay, that's embracing it.
I assimilated very quickly to being within a very traditional Malay family that were my...
Totally immersion.
And I just felt part of the family. So it wasn't like I was an outsider. Things happen as they do, and we drifted apart over the last few years of our marriage. And that's fine. We're still best friends.
Even after divorce, you can be very good friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think the basis of a marriage is friendship.
Friendship.
I mean, at some point, the butterflies fly away. Right? And so what is left is the friendship.
Yep.
And I think those that truly fail, there was never a friendship to begin with.
Yep, I agree.
The butterflies were just hanging out, right?
Yeah.
And so then when the butterflies left, okay, everything left. But I think if you have a true loving relationship, the love is really about the friendship.
Yep.
And one of the things that I've always taken pride in is any relationship that I've been in, I'm still friends with the person. Because I think that's what's important.
Absolutely. When a relationship breaks down, you tend to analyze it and say what went wrong. I can honestly say
What went right? I mean,
yeah, what went right?
What went
But
right,
no, we tend to bring our own baggage with us
Of
into
course,
relationships.
yes.
And
Both suitcases.
whether it's a relationship I had when I was in Australia or whether it was a relationship I had in Malaysia.
Or even business
there's-
relationships, too.
There's
Yeah.
similar things
Yeah.
which I see happening. And I say, well, it can't be the other person. It must be something that I'm bringing, whether it's positive or negative, right? Malaysia's been a very nice country to me, very loving to me. I can honestly say that. All my business dealings is done through friendships that I've created over the last 23 years in Malaysia. But I work really hard, but I also work smart in leveraging off those relationships that I've had where people, and it's what you said before, it's people, the relationship is important because people will trust you.
Yeah.
And
Well, at
once
the
you've got
end of the day,
trust-
it's trust. I think what we take away from it is that relationships are important.
Yep.
And both in business and your success with developing relationships for the Malaysian economy, as well as for yourself. And then how those relationships still carry forward to these days. 23 years later, those relationships are still important in your life and your community. When you talk about developing your writing community, talk about developing those relationships and with the sponsors and even with people inside the communities. And your fantastic broad experience. Thank you for sharing that with us. So we appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. I have a deep love and passion for Malaysia. And I really believe that Malaysia is on the right path right now to not only recover from the catastrophic result of COVID, but also to flourish.
Great. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you very much.